Hi, I'm Tane.
And I'm Aid, and this is Altar Call, a Married at First Sight podcast.
Hi, beautiful people. Welcome to another off-season episode. This episode, we will be going back to our tradition of watching the matchmaking special after the season ends. Hi, Aid. How are you?
I am all right. How are you?
I am good. I'm good. No, this is not one of the ones I'll say I'm excited to talk about, but I would say it was very interesting to see it after you know the characters that are in play.
I from watching it, I'm like, there's a reason why we don't watch this.
Yeah.
And watching it at the end of the season, at least there's I don't know, there's Easter eggs, there's all this kind of stuff that you get to look at that you're like, oh, okay, that's just fun to watch in hindsight, but
Yeah.
it's it's not a good hour and a half of TV. Sorry.
Yes. Even though, as you say that, we have committed and we will be watching it before time for season 18.
We will. We will.
Okay, before we get into the episode, housekeeping, please.
So, just to let you guys know, for our patrons, 90 Day Fiancé Happily Ever After is going to be delayed. We will cover it in the next couple of weeks, but we won't have it on Patreon like we said we would. And the reason that our schedule is a little off this week is because we thought we were going to have a really good surprise for you guys. Patrons know what the good surprise was going to be, and it's been delayed or might never happen. We just don't know, but we will keep you posted.
Yes, we will. Fingers crossed. Send all the good juju our way. Okay, so there's no other thing but to dive into this. And we see the experts being very happy to be in Denver. Dr. Pierce excited to be a part of the team full time. Um, she says they say that there's something for everybody here in Denver, and they got over 1,000 singles applying. We sit through the video applications, and I miss those days when we used to see people come into the hall and we see all the people trying to apply, trying to talk to people. I mean, I think it's back now, but now there's like more video than we used to see earlier in the day or something like that. Um
Or maybe people aren't lining up anymore.
I know when they said they had thousands of singles, I was like, what was it before? Is it more or is it less? We see someone say Denver is called Menver because there's two guys for every one girl, and it's hard to find a good guy here. And here is my maybe not so irrational rant. I don't know why every city thinks they're so unique in dating. Everyone says the same thing. It's so hard. There are more guys. Even Carrie in Sex and the City, New York has a everybody thinks they're special. No, you're not. Dating is just hard. Full stop. Doesn't matter where you are. It's the same thing. No one is unique. Everyone has their dating struggles, and it is not easy. There's no city where they're like, oh yeah, it's so easy to find a good guy here. No. So yeah, just a little sidebar from me.
Alaska and Wyoming are the two states that I hear about where there's 2 to 3 men for every woman. But I'm telling you exactly what Tane said. If you talk to somebody from one of those places and they're a woman, they won't just say, oh yeah, there are guys falling all over me and I can't pick them. They're just all out there. Great guys with great jobs and, emotionally available and ready for a commitment. No, it's kind of weird. Usually, I think the idea is that, supply, demand, competition, but human relationships just do not work like that. Someone's going to have to tell me why because I don't get it.
Also, quality dipped. So, we see Chloe. She's the first sighting of the current cast that we know of. She says that the men she's attracted to are not good for her. That's why she's ready to do this. There was a girl in there. Her name was Kaylee. She looked so familiar. I could not place her. I was Googling. I was trying to see if this was somebody else, but I couldn't place her. But I settled for I think she just looks like Cassidy from Survivor. So, fellow Survivor watchers, you know who I'm talking about, but it bugged me to no end. Um,
Was she the one? She might have been the one who to me looked like Claire.
yeah, I can see that. Yes. Yeah, that's possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Cameron, we cite Cameron. Cameron says he wants someone in the same frequency and he wants a partnership. He got a partnership, all right. Um, I noticed that everyone, I don't remember all the previous matchmaking specials, but in Denver, everyone had like, I don't know what to call it, but like super adult jobs, like tech this, sales this, project this, like everyone. It was very DC like, but I don't think even DC was that serious because we had like a yoga teacher, we had like a nurse, we had like a not say they're not super adult jobs. So maybe what I'm trying to say is very serious jobs.
And see, I think everybody's job was so dang vague. What does an account executive do? I understand what project managers do, but if you're a project manager, it depends on who you work for, what kind of projects you like. I, and it depends on. I mean, I don't know if we really. There's privacy things. I don't know if you really need to know what a person does for a
Yeah,
living to understand anything about who they
yeah,
are. But I just felt like I have no idea what these people actually do
yeah.
for a living.
But it gave me something to look out for in Chicago, like just to see what the job titles and what it's going to be like when we watch that. So, anyways, after filling out all the forms, going through the backgrounds, they meet with the experts. And the question is, why would you do Married at First Sight? I only took down the answers of the cast. Emily says she's 29 years old and she's been 29 years single, so it's time. Chloe says she's lived an unconventional life and she's ready to meet her partner in an unconventional way. Austin says he wants to get married and he's ready to live an American dream life. Lauren says she's ready to be married because of everything she's been through and everything she knows. It makes her ready. So, Orion says he feels like he has been searching and he's never found anything that speaks to him. Becca says that she has never done anything traditionally her whole life and it's been super rewarding, so she thinks this will be rewarding so soon. My thoughts were just seeing everyone be so hopeful. This is how we feel when the season starts. Everyone just so optimistic, like this is gonna happen, and it's just sad knowing how it plays out. Um, Orion talks about his community and being a representative for them. Austin says that he is a native Coloradian. Emily says she likes going out. She's a big partier. She's into drinking. um, I laugh because I don't think that should disqualify someone from being chosen. But I think I remember, wasn't that an issue with Alexis? And
Yeah, that she liked to go out a lot. B- But I mean, th- watching this matchmaking special, it's always like, how do you describe yourself? Like, how do you think of yourself? Is just as important as who you are. And so, if someone says describe yourself and you're like, I'm a huge partier and I love drinking,
it's for a marriage show.
uh,
I-
there are a lot of parts of this matchmaking special where it feels like a job interview for the
yes,
participants. And I'm
yes,
like, how did you say that in the job interview and still get hired?
yes, exactly. Because it really did feel like a job interview, and we all lie in it. Well, I don't want to speak for nobody, but we all like most people exaggerate because you are selling yourself. But if you know you're trying to get chosen, traditionally in society, if you say I'm a partier, I like to drink, I like to go out, they don't think that you're ready for marriage. Not that that is always true, but for you to say that, it's almost like, did you want to get chosen? Like, you could be all those things, just don't say it out loud. But I guess she
Sorry.
was being honest.
I forgot to say this earlier, but in the very, very first interviews, there was this 125-year-old whose name I can't remember, who, when asked why she was doing the show, said something like, my grandma says that I'll never get married unless something really strange happens. I was like, this one is 25-year-old, 25 years old. Grandma, what are you doing? What are you saying?
That's another pet peeve. This 21-year-old comes and I've searched everywhere and I just feel like this is my last option. I was like, you still got 30 more lives to go.
Anyway, that was just something that stood out to me. But back to Emily and
Yeah.
I mean, the fact of the matter is she didn't pick herself. So
Yeah. Yeah.
clearly the experts didn't think that you describing yourself as a party girl who wants to get married, they didn't find that disqualifying.
Exactly. And this is why we watched though. We wanted to see how they presented themselves and what the experts thought, this person is ready to take that leap. Because the other thing is, you're not just picking someone that you think is ready for marriage, someone that can go through and handle the process of it being on TV, I think, is the other
Yes.
thing you should be looking at. And I think maybe that's what raised Emily's average. Emily wants to be on TV. Emily's ready for TV. And she seemed or seems to be ready for marriage. So that might have raised her average, I think.
But
Um,
this is why the experts get accusations of like just doing things for TV. Like did and they will never answer the question, so I don't know why we ask. But all of
yeah,
us are like, did you really think she would be good for marriage or did you think she would be good TV?
yeah. What is the difference?
I actually think
Mike,
that the experts match for marriage. I have a lot of faith in them. Maybe I'm dumb.
no, I actually think they do. But when you have situations like this, and especially when there are other applicants, because what you're saying is when you match these people, you're saying these are the people that stood out to me as ready to settle down. And nothing about this screams settle down. I think it screams I'm ready to date and be in a committed relationship, but I don't, that could just be me. I don't know. Michael is not. I really wish. Sorry. As a digression, I've always thought this the entire time. I think Emily would have been great at any of the other dating shows that we had. That wasn't maths. She would have been like perfect reality show talent for those. Michael says that he's not the average Colorado guy. He talks about how he dresses. He's actually wearing like this ripped jeans, very ripped, pink boots. Claire talks about being a quadruplet, and Brennan, ironically, is talking to Dr. Pia and saying how he's a selfless guy. He puts everyone before himself, but he still sounds monotone. And the thing that I got out of the matchmaking special is I don't know that I would have chosen Brennan because he just didn't stand out to me. The only reason why I would have maybe chosen him is Brennan seems more attractive in the matchmaking special. Like he's a really cute guy. It's the same person. I don't know why I'm saying it like it's a different person, but
He's a cute guy in the matchmaking special. He's a cute guy in the reunion. I don't know what you're saying.
yes.
But I
But he
also
just
would
he's
never trust
cute.
a person who tells me that they put themselves everybody before themselves. I'm like, why do you what's with martyrdom? That I don't think being a martyr or thinking you're a martyr is a good candidacy for marriage, but that's just me.
If anyone exemplified what you were saying, like the whole job interview thing, it was Brennan. Brennan completely sounded like he was on his 5-step interview for Google the entire time. So then they asked them, why are you single? Cameron is the same person that he is on the show in this matchmaking special. He makes this unfunny joke about setting a goal to ride 100 miles on his mountain bike, which doesn't make time for a relation. Ugh, I tuned out, but it wasn't funny. Becca says that she's ready to finally commit, that and to commit she had to be the best version of herself, and she thinks that she's there. Emily says that she's a big personality, she's successful in her career for her age, and she doesn't know if that is too much for someone. Austin wants someone with a big social circle, which is an interesting thing
Uh
to say.
I think it's a very how do I put this? A very forward thinking way of looking at it. Cuz if you have friends and you plan to stay friends with your friends, you don't want to date somebody who doesn't have friends. You're like, when will I have time to hang out with my friends if you don't have friends of your own to go hang out with?
Okay. That's an angle. Um Chloe says her Deal breaker. I don't know how we got here, but she says her deal breaker is that someone that lacks character and lacks integrity. Dr. Pia steps in and asks, how important is sex to you? Brennan says he likes to have sex and it has to be regular. Michael starts going on about being liking, like he likes being bitten and everything. I'm like, what happened to Mr. Vanilla? I thought he said, that was what he was. Lauren says she wants someone that's sexually adventurous. Chloe says it needs to be girthy. Can I just say that I really enjoyed Chloe in this matchmaking special? She just seemed fun.
She did, and we at this point don't know anything about how Chloe will play into the show. And so I thought it was really interesting how they positioned her in this matchmaking special. I'm like, could you have been, if you were looking for Easter eggs, could you have figured out that Chloe was the one?
I think not, because there was somebody else that they featured just as much, but I think what it would have done was when Michael was going to be matched the second time, you could have guessed that it would be one of the girls that was featured in the matchmaking special, because there
Hmm.
was no way they weren't going to feature whatever. So Chloe just says it needs to be girthy. Becca says, I mean, I have friends with benefits. And this is where Ryan mentions kissing a man. Even though he always says that he was kissed and he was like, no, I don't want anything to do with that. Austin answers doggy style, but says it's weird to say on camera. And I feel like with all these answers, they were all true to themselves. The only one that might have surprised me was maybe Brennan, because I don't think I knew anything about Brennan when it comes to sex. So him saying, "Oh, it has sex, it has to be regular." Michael likes to be bitten. He said that in a playful way. Lauren's sexually adventurous. I feel like I knew that. Chloe seems to be been open about sex. Becca has friends with benefits. We knew that. Orion, we already knew that. And then Austin saying Dougie style, but also saying, yeah, that seems weird to say on camera and seeming uncomfortable. Tracks. So
I thought it was interesting that Orion, the way he described kissing a man in the matchmaking special, the tone was a little bit different than when we learned about it later.
yeah, he was very. Wait, are we on the same page? He was very not no big deal.
Well, yeah, he was no big deal about it, but when he said it the second time, it felt more like, yeah, I've explored my sexuality. I've been on a date
Yes,
with a man. I've kissed a man. But in the matchmaking special, it was, yeah, I kissed a dude. I didn't like it. Or a dude kissed me. I didn't like it. Different tone.
yes, yes. I agree. I agree. But yeah, I guess they were all trying to get matched, or unless he was being told it has to be a different air. I don't know. Um, Interesting enough, there was someone who applied that was a virgin. They didn't cast her. I mean, I think I've mentioned my stance before. I don't think they should again, but I don't know. I wonder if they will.
I'm sure they will. Was the last time they did it didn't go so well, but it's hard to say if that was because she was a virgin or that's because the way it was. Yeah, I think
she
they'll do
said
it again.
she said the way it was. I think it was both. I think that Keith did not want that responsibility at all, but also Iris at the time was kind of bratty and just a little immature.
I feel like with a sample size of one and some of the built-in drama that it creates, they have to do it again. I'm waiting.
Oh God, you know how I feel. Don't make it a two. All right, guys. We will take a break and we'll be right back to talk about the matchups.
Life doesn't happen bi-weekly, so why should payday? The money you make can be in your hands today with Earn In. Earn In is an app that gives you access to your pay as you work, up to $100 per day or up to $750 per pay period. Just download the Earn In app and verify your paycheck. Then access up to $100 a day as you work and leave an optional tip. Any money you access plus tips are automatically repaid from your next paycheck. Summer is coming and it is time for all of us to go on vacation. You can use the money you earn from Earn In to buy a new bathing suit or some new clothes for your fun summer vacation.
Download EarnIn today, spelled EARNIN, in the Google Play or Apple App Store. When you download the EarnIn app,
Type in Alto Call under podcast when you sign up. It'll really help the show. That's Alto Call under podcast. Subject to your available earnings, location, daily max, and pay period max. See earnin.com/TOS for details. Earnin is a financial technology company, not a bank. Bank products are issued by Evolve Bank and Trust, member FDIC. Ladies, you know that vicious week before your period where you feel like you want to crawl out of your skin, you feel a little bit down or off, and those cravings when you feel like you could eat anything in sight? Well, there's a solution for that. Now it's easier to manage your PMS with Estro Control.
You have to try Hormone Harmony. Happy Mammoth, the company that created Hormone Harmony, is dedicated to making women's lives easier. And that means using only science backed ingredients that have been proven to work for women. They make no compromise when it comes to quality. And it shows. For a limited time, you can get 15% off on your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use the code AlterCallMaths at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use the code ALTARCALLMAFS for 15% off today.
If you're like me and looking to cut back on alcohol this year, Recess Zero Proof Craft Mocktails are the perfect alcohol replacement. They've recreated the cocktails you know and love, like their ginger lime mule and grapefruit paloma, which happen to be my favorites. You can enjoy the flavors and feelings of those cocktails without the booze. Zero proof, zero compromise. Listeners can get 15% of the Recess Mocktail Sampler at takearecess.com/autocallmafs.
You guys know I don't drink very much, so Recess is a great substitute while everybody else imbibes. It's a lightly sparkling mocktail infused with functional ingredients like uplifting guayusa and stress balancing adaptogens. Whether you're relaxing after work or hanging out with friends, make Recess mocktails your drink between drinks or your forever mocktail. Get 15% off Recess mocktails now at takearecess.com/altercallmafs so you can enjoy your favorite cocktails without the consequences.
So they do some matchups, and these are just people that they think that they want to proceed. But before we go into that, I just remembered a conversation that we had while we were not recording Aid, where we talked about the risks of who to cast because we were talking about this whole casting a virgin, and we had a conversation about what how do you classify risks, because I was like, don't take that risk for certain things, and you were like, what is a big risk and what is not a big risk to take.
I think risk is one word to use to describe. It's like what differences can you accommodate for, and what differences can you not accommodate for, and how much
Yeah.
should the experts be factoring in? You guys are way too different for us to match you two.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about it a lot, and yeah, a lot of things seem to be risky, but I think there are levels to it. So for me, I think unless someone explicitly like says like, "Oh, I don't mind if you match me with a virgin." I think that's a huge risk. I think religion is a huge risk. Like if you match like an atheist with someone who believes in God, that's a huge risk. If you match someone who does not want to have a kid with someone like that wants to have a kid, that's a huge risk. Just stay away from it. And I think maybe where we differed was where I think like matching someone who's never been in a relationship, I think is a risk. And matching someone who's like maybe 3 months out of a relationship, I think that's a risk. So yeah, but
I,
they believe in gambles, so you know.
I don't know. I'm like the whole never been in a relationship thing. Yeah, it's a risk, but I don't think that that should automatically disqualify you.
I think so.
And
It's
as I said, I don't think being a virgin should automatically disqualify you either. I do think I'm with you. The problem is that people say they're fine with things, and then when faced with the reality of it, they're like, "Wait a second." I can't remember if they ever asked Keith if he was okay with a virgin.
yeah, I don't remember.
But he probably would say like, "I'm open to everything. Do what you want," and then it became an issue. But until this day, as you said, there were other issues with Iris and Keith besides the fact that she was a virgin.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Okay, so they talk about the people they want to proceed with. They say they loved Michael's confidence. They loved Orion because he's a sensitive, deep thinker. I think Orion is a mirror. How do you say the word? Mirror. He mirrors people and he says things that he thinks people want to hear. So it's very interesting that it translated as a deep thinker. I don't fault them at all for that because honestly, we're speaking from hindsight, but I don't think he came across during this process. Um, they say he's a good mix of feminine and masculine energy, and they detected depth and maturity in Claire. And Austin is so boring that the only thing they say about him is that he's an all American guy. Which, what is an all American guy?
It's so coded.
Brennan, they thought he was cute and they liked how serious he was about this. Lauren, they absolutely loved. Their eyes like shone, and they said she follows her own drum beat. Emily, they said, was independent, and Pastor Cal said she has good values. Um, Chloe, they said there's a sweetness that they want to believe, but they don't know if it's real. And I was like, you know what? We understand that's how we felt. But it's interesting to see that they also felt the same way. And which may be why she wasn't cast the first time.
Uh,
Um and Cameron, they said they believe he's into the process and the women will fall in love with the accent. And safe to say that they deleted Jane Doe. Like, there's no way they'll take a risk and include her in all of this, and since no one knows her identity, so right?
I mean, the whole getting rid of Jane Doe thing, now it just makes me like, I'm dying to know who she is. Season's over. Does she want to, like, is she going to come out of the shadows? Or is somehow this person would have shot, like, a whole third of a reality TV show and we'll never know her name? How will I live like this?
I don't think we're ever gonna find that. I think that thing is locked tight, and I think if I was a betting person, I really do think this is the reason why it was delayed. I think they were trying to make sure everything legally, what can we get away with, what can we show, what can we not, and then to craft that story. I think that it's locked tight. Whoever's leaking stories, even they're scared too that it hasn't been leaked, because by all accounts, it should have been leaked by now.
The only thing I can think is that you could probably find her if you looked through the female cast members' Instagrams. Because I bet you they all followed each other on Instagram after they met. But if they unfollowed her, yeah, you'd have to do some deep sleuthing to find this one.
Nah, and then if they got legal things and everyone was in agreement, I don't think this woman wants to be even associated at all. She's not following anyone. So, yeah. Okay, so they do the home visits. And the problem is the experts are back at the spot where they were in the beginning. This is after all the matching and the proceeding, but they're still wearing the same thing. And they come back to say, and now we this is the best part. And I'm like, guys, you could at least change your clothes. But what they did essentially was film the opening, film this part, and they were being efficient. Um, but Dr. Pepper shares that this is her favorite part, the greatness of home visits. You get to see how they live and you surprise them that they are not expecting the experts to be there. They think it's just producers coming to get extra footage. So when they show up, it's like a surprise. So Dr. Pepper gets Emily, Pascal gets Becca, Dr. Pia gets Michael. Becca has like a very nice apartment. She also has a bong, she says, for guests. Her fear is that she intimidates people or she's a lot more avoidant than she is. She likes her alone time and she likes to be independent, which is nothing like what we saw. She wanted to be around Austin all the time. I didn't get the sense that she values her alone time like how we saw with Chloe. The other thing I was looking for Becca at the matchmaking special was if there was going to be mention of her surgery, her illness, and there was none of that.
It was strange because there's only 2 weeks between when the end of this episode and the wedding, and there was a whole lot of talk in between about her recent health issues, but there's nothing in the matchmaking special.
Yeah.
Did no
So
one
I do,
ask her about it? Like, did she go through all of casting and not mention it?
I don't know, and I'm wondering if she asked because I know while the he said she said was going on, I think Austin mentioned that she didn't want to talk about that on camera. I don't know what's real or not, but I have a vague recollection about that. So maybe she asked for that, but I think that would have been an important thing. Like even when they were matching or talking about who to proceed with, I think they would have been like, "Oh, she's going through her health thing right now. She might not be able." I don't know. It didn't come up. Which is to your point, these things don't really tell us much, but it should. you know? So Pascal asks Becca that she has been engaged once. And she didn't say yes. She says we were planning on getting eloped. And I don't know if this is like how Alexis was engaged 3 times, but it wasn't like an engagement. It was just that some people asked her to get married. It was not very clear. Also, that never came up during the show, right?
Correct. The fact
I'm
that
like,
she had almost been married, never, not one word.
yeah. And I'm like, again, important. She said, and he asked why that didn't work out. He said she was not who she wanted to be, and at the time she was suffering from severe anxiety. And I'm glad Pascal asked if the pressure of this would be too much for her, because I was going to add that to my list of you should disqualify someone. Mental health is very, very important. It is very, very stressful to be on a show this much with under that much pressure. And, you know, I wouldn't want anyone to go through that if you suffer from that severe anxiety. But she does say that nope, she's good. If you had asked her 6 years ago, she wouldn't have been able to do it. But she's in a good place right now and she is fine.
And she did discuss this during the show. So that was a storyline that actually made sense.
Hmm. She says everything good that's happened to her outside of her comfort zone. And while it's uncomfortable, it's expansive. And honestly, I think that's the line that got her matched.
While
You
it's
know,
uncomfortable, it's expensive. You think that's what got her?
yes, she says everything good that's happened to me has been outside of my comfort zone, and while it would be uncomfortable, it is expansive. And you could just see Pastor Kyle going, okay. And I do think, I will say this, I do think Becca was a good match.
Hmm.
Everyone was just mismatched this season, unfortunately, but I do think she was a good pick.
I think she was a
Becca,
good pick, and I also think, I mean, this is more, the whole show, but I think she was a good match for Austin.
yeah, because she was patient with him.
She was
But
patient. I think they had a lot in common, but they did have some major things. It goes back to the risk question. Their risks did not work out, but I could have seen their risks working out just fine.
yeah, and this is all based on what we saw. We don't know what was happening off camera with everything. And I really think this season all boils down to the attractiveness level and not being interested in someone romantically. This is where, like, in the big old age old question of what is the issue, why didn't Austin want to sleep with her, and all that stuff, I think ultimately he was not attracted to her. And not being attracted to someone doesn't mean that person is ugly. I don't know. I just feel like I need to say that. But I just think like ultimately a lot of these couples were not attracted to each other and they
Correct.
just ended it. Anyway, so Becca says she wants someone who knows themselves, someone who's emotionally intelligent and emotionally available, someone who is non-traditional in some aspects. I'm yelling that out loud because I would describe Austin as traditional.
They described him as traditional. They said he was a
so
traditional guy.
So, yeah, they skipped that part. They took risks. Um, Dr. Pepper gets Orion, and he just has a really strong focus on his culture. He says he leans more to dark complected women. Aid, are we saying he's saying black?
No, because that's not the same thing.
Mm.
I think people
What?
might think I'm crazy for saying that, but like Darker complexion can mean anything from like slightly tan to maybe very, darker South Asian. It doesn't necessarily go all the way to black.
Hmm. I just think it will be a different choice of words to describe that
Yeah. I think if you
versus,
are traditionally attracted to black women, then you just say black women, not whatever he said.
oh, you'd be surprised. A lot of people are scared to just say black women or black person. Like there's this whole, especially on TV, it's almost like you're not allowed to say that. You have to say dark skin, dark hair, dark. I'm like, what? Like on Love Island, half of them just like the black men, although a lot of the men are biracial, but they can never say that. They're just like dark hair, tan. They say tan skin. I was like, what does that mean? Okay, I just thought he meant black.
That's so
Um,
funny. Okay, sorry.
Orion says that when it comes to culture, he doesn't want someone who treats him like a diamond. That he had an ex that kept saying, "Oh, he's native," and that's just what he was to her. Y'all, okay, so yeah, I get it, yeah, but Orion leads with that. Orion is that. Orion breathes that. That is all Orion told us about himself. So what does he mean? And this is where I don't know if he's being genuine or not, or if he's just saying what he thinks people want to hear. What did you think?
It just didn't track with what we saw on the show.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
the way Orion tells it, his whole relationship imploded because Lauren said the wrong thing about his heritage.
yeah,
Made a mistake, didn't know enough, said the wrong thing. This also lends a lot of credence to what Lauren said about how Orion came on the show to show his culture, while
yeah,
also saying, I want to be seen as more than my culture. He's
yes,
a very confused man. And
yes,
maybe we're in the wrong here, but I don't think I am. I think Orion is confused.
yes. He just needs to know himself a little more. And I think I saw his last name. Oh God, I probably should have written it down. I saw his last name for the first time, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" If I saw this, I honestly wouldn't even know that he was Native American. Did they mention on the show? My memory is on that. Is he half
Yes.
Native American? Okay.
Yes, there's a lot of discussion about how I believe his dad is not native. His mom is native.
Yes, yes, because his last name is not Native. Okay, got it. Um, he said he wants someone who wants to learn and ask about it. Dr. Pepper asks him, how will he handle someone that he was not expecting? And he says that his relationships have come through mental attraction and not just relationships, also friendships and all that. He says he wants an extroverted personality. We see Pastor Cal with Lauren. We see Claire with Dr. Pia. And Dr. Pia asks Claire, how would you describe the perfect sex? And Claire is so taken aback. I think they should have put Claire with Austin, actually.
Mm, maybe I don't know.
We don't know. Hindsight is 2020. We don't know. We don't know anything. She says the sex with the emotional connection would be the best one. So she asks again, why are you single? Claire says she's single because she doesn't like to waste time. And if someone is not for you, then she just leaves. And I'm like, that tracks. I mean, Cameron wasn't for her and she left. She says that she's very emotional. She values family. And we see this guy Ed, and I kept wondering why wasn't Lauren put with Ed, but maybe there's more to it. Pascal asked Lauren about exploring the same sex, and she says she's okay with that because she has two and she thinks it's healthy. And then he asked her where she is as far as pride for her culture, and this is what let me know that they already knew who they were gonna match them with, because that seemed very specific to Orion.
Yes.
Like nobody else had explored the same sex and nobody else had mentioned pride of culture. I mean, definitely wasn't Austin.
I understand that under the definition of explored same sex, Orion counts. His experience counts. But I think saying I am bisexual, which is, I think, what Lauren said, is very different from I went on a date with a guy with one time and was completely not. I don't understand how the experts coded that as something they had in common.
Unless Orion, cleaned up his story a little bit,
Okay.
maybe.
I mean,
Because
from what
there,
we saw, that's not I'm not seeing a commonality in experience there.
yeah, that's true. That's true. But I mean, the only thing they had in common was yes, that's true. Because I was going to say they were both curious. But the thing is, Lauren has actually explored and dated women, and Orion says that he has not. So, oh, people just, we don't know. Okay, so Lauren says, to as far as her pride of her culture, Lauren says that there's very little that she loves more than being black, and it's important for whoever she's with to understand that. And I know we had a conversation. Again, I don't know if it was on the pod or if it was off the pod, where I said that I think Lauren should have been paired with a black man.
You have said it, I think, off the pod.
Okay, yeah. So this was where I was interested in the conversation when he said that. So Pascal says that, do you think that could happen with someone who is not black? And then they go to commercial and make it all dramatic. And then she's like, well, I'll be open because I have a reverence for other cultures as long as they have the curiosities. And Pascal was like, he's not trying to sway her mind or anything, but he just wants her open to all possibilities to love. And I don't know. I still felt like he should have gone with her first answer. Her first answer was just like, there's nothing I love more than being black. It's important for me. I just want this and blah, blah, blah. And then this.
I don't equivocate though. I'm very proud of being black and I love being black too, but I ideally I should be married with matched with someone who is black.
I mean, she said it's important for them to understand it. She'd rather not explain it. She'd just want them to understand innately and just have it. I equate that.
Okay.
And then she suddenly, she became open. I think she was open. Here's how I deduced it. She is open, but if she had a choice, she would want a black person. Because I remember that conversation with her friends. They talked about it and they even whispered it when they were like, but what if he's not black? And they said that because there's a reason for that. So it's not to say that she's not open, but you really got to be like in it. But then they matched her with someone who was surprised at what a bonnet was. Like, I don't know. If you're gonna do that, she says the person has to understand. She didn't want to teach, but who knows? Again, we'll never know.
Later on in the episode, they're going to talk about basically why Lauren was not matched with
Yeah.
a black person, and they basically say we didn't have enough in Denver, which makes sense because Denver is doesn't have a lot of black people. And
Then
what happens in this matchmaking special, and I think we saw this, they decide they like someone, and so they decide to match them. Like
yes.
it's very much fitting a square peg into a round hole. They're like, we
Yes.
like you, so we want to find somebody for you. I don't know if we like you is code word for casting really liked you.
Yeah.
But there's something there where it comes down to we like a person, not that we found a really good match.
Yes, because as soon as she said it and said there's not a lot of black people, which to me again is to the point of they know she wanted a black person because it wasn't the case. They didn't have to mention that at all. They could have just said, "Oh, we found a person" and moved on. But they specifically mentioned there wasn't a black person. They shouldn't have matched her. Let her go at that point. And this is where I just think that this show is not a show where you should. I'm sorry, I have to say the word again. Take that much of a risk, but to your point, you like the person so much. If you like them so much, don't put them through this.
But there's always the chance that it works. I mean, you think that they were setting her up for Orion by asking these questions. I think by then they knew we really want to match Lauren, but our depth of black men is not deep enough to where we think we'll find her one. So let's make sure we at least create insurance if we have to match her with someone who is not black.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't think, based on how he presented himself, I don't even think they made a terrible pick. No, they didn't. All this is by chance. It's either it works or it doesn't work. It's just that the last few seasons, it just hasn't been working. That because it just hasn't been working, I'm just not going to take that chance.
Here, I got a theoretical for you, special for us.
Okay.
If someone like Lauren is just like, I want to be married to a black man, and they match her with a Nigerian, is that the same thing?
Ah!
I got you.
Ah! I
Emmanuel Acho's been on the Twitter's discourse a lot
please
this
don't
week.
say that name. Oh,
I'm just saying. I'm like, if
oh.
you're a married at first sight and you're like, I want a black man, and then you get Emmanuel Acho, did you? Like,
All
did they?
right.
The problem is what you said and what the intention were may not match. I guess is my point.
I guess.
And I
But
say, you know
she,
what? I said Nigerian, but it could be Nigerian, Ghanaian, even Caribbean. Like,
yeah,
if you're
yeah,
if you're like, I'm really into my black culture, does
yes.
that Brazilian? Like, do those is that the same as matching with Orion?
No. And the only reason is, oh, he said Emmanuel Acho. Okay. That's what threw me off. That really, guys, if you don't know who he is, just Google. I don't know how to explain this man, but you know. Um, okay, so why I said no, it's not the same is at least the Nigerian, the Caribbean, the whatever, they will know what a bonnet is. I'm still so tripped up by that. I really am. Because I think he did say that he's dated black people before, which is why probably why that dark complected came through. And how have you been with a black woman and you've never seen that before? That I don't know. So that's where I feel like it'll be different, but there are levels to this. You can't just be like you could be. Oh, you threw me. Jeez.
because because
You have to.
you have to think of it that way. The people
Yes.
who I am familiar with, I'm trying to think if there's anybody who I directly know or have spoken in depth with about this. African Americans who have married Nigerian Americans, there is a culture clash there, even though they are
Yeah.
both black.
Yes. Yes, that is true. But I think she gave us a full sentence. She didn't just say, I want a black man, I don't care, blah, blah. She said, I want someone who understands the culture and I don't have to explain to. And I think that's a full sentence where that encompasses like it has to be someone who understands. You don't have to be, I don't think you have to be, let's say, like, for me, I'm an immigrant, but I feel like I understand it's not the same journey, but I feel like I understand like the African American journey is different, but I understand it and I'm there. That's I'm not gonna say that all black immigrants understand it. So if they're gonna match someone, it has to be someone that is black, but also understands and like she said, willing to learn. That would be the part that's missing, not the part that's gonna be like, nope, this is completely different and not even willing to understand that you could both be black and have two different journeys.
Okay. So what you're saying is, yes, a black immigrant or a child of black immigrants could count, but they need to be very explicit in their understanding of black culture, not just their own culture.
Yes, and there's just some things they would understand that. Okay. My short kind of answer is that I think they have a level up from Orion.
Okay. I,
Yes,
I would agree.
yes. Um.
Unless they're Emmanuel
So
Acho. Unless, yeah.
yes, unless that, then you be having weird arguments and you be like, what even is my life? Um. So, Lauren says that she has had great partners, but they weren't attentive to her. And I'm like, so what made them great? Like, that's one of the most important things. You have to be attentive to your partner. And she said the one thing that's kind of shallow, but it's important to her is they have to have great style. And I'm like,
And
and
they
you
gave her
ended with
Orion?
Orion? Nah, bro. That
This is why
man.
people were saying that she should have been with Michael.
Because of the style. Hmm.
Well, I think that's a factor. That's a factor.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But I mean, I'm glad she said, "Listen, everybody in their list of things that they like or want or whatever, we everybody has a shallow thing that they want or whatever." So it wasn't a deal breaker, but it's just like this is important to me. But that another reason why they should have just let it be and let it go. Anyways, Dr. Pia gets Austin, and she's going through his drawers and said, uh, "Why are there no condoms here?" And he says, "No." He was visibly uncomfortable. He was like, because it's not something I do often. Dr. Pia says, what don't you do often? Have sex? He goes, one night stands. Dr. Pia was like, so I'm not gonna find anything sexual here? And he says, no. People, this is foreboding. Like, you're not gonna find anything sexual in his marriage either.
I'm like, do they? I thought really long and hard about how they edit this show because they don't. Do they not start editing until after they're completely done filming everything? Because they lay some Easter eggs out, but they can't lay out too many for us because that would spoil the whole show. But then you watch stuff like that and you're like, oh, this is a clue, you guys. This is a clue.
Yeah, they stayed consistent. Um, Dr. Pierre, when they sit down, Dr. Pierre is like, so I'm clocking that you're very super chill and quiet. Like, what kind of what kind of woman would you want? This was a moment where I was like, did he move? It looked like a different house from the house where he and Kyla talked, but it could just be me. Maybe I'm just remembering wrong, but I don't know. Um, he said he doesn't mind a woman who's like extroverted and not so chill and quiet because he's the one who wants a big social circle. Dr. Pia gets Chloe, and it's such a good time. Like she walks in, she doesn't have a nightstand, and she's like, "Oh, I can't find anything." And Chloe basically just hands her vibrator and is like, "This is what you're looking for." And then she goes to Cameron's home, and Cameron's home was such a dud. Like there was just nothing in there. They ask him why he's ready for this. He says that he has not been pursuing a relationship and now he wants marriage. Then in the next breath, he says that when they ask why he hasn't, he said that he has been ready and emotionally in the last 3 to 4 years. Like I guess he was in a yeah, he's been ready in the last 3 to 4 years, but he just wanted a break. I'm like, those are
What?
two conflicting things.
Yeah, I felt like Cameron was such a mystery on this show.
He should not have been cast. And we should have known we were in danger when Pastor Cal was like, oh, they're going to love his accent. But I mean, I think we kind of said it before. Americans are very enamored by, well, certain
Certain
accents.
accents.
Yes, British, Australian, and all that. And I'm like, that's not enough to cast someone. But Cameron just gave off. And I think my red flag for Cameron would be how much his family was not involved. And then they never asked him about his parents. He never mentioned he had a sick dad. He never mentioned all that. I don't, there's too much vagueness, and almost like his personality was a reflection of his home. There was just nothing there for someone who's living there. So,
More on that later. More on that later.
okay, okay. He tells them that he's reliable and trustworthy. He wants someone that is slender and healthy. I mean, it's not as bad as it sounds. Like he bikes around and does all the things, so he wants someone who's also fit. Dr. Pepper gets Emily, asks why she's not in a relationship. She says she was focusing on herself, and I don't know, she basically didn't answer the question. She says it's all about personality for her, that she swears a lot. I don't know if Emily really was trying to get cast or just trying to get shock value. She says her true insecurity is never being in love or never getting married. Dr. Pepper says that the thing that she's worried about with Emily is her no track record of attachment. She doesn't say no relationship. She says no track record of attachment. Um, but Emily says that she's adaptable and understanding, and this is a one-time thing for her. Really, really random. Jessica, I think the one with the yoga or something, who was in the park with Pastor Cal. I did wonder why she wasn't with Austin. I mean, Later on, I was like, it's probably because she's too chill, and they didn't want to put two chill people together. And he said he wanted someone extroverted. But I'm one of those people. I don't necessarily buy into the opposites attract thing. You can put two people who are similar. I think that's okay.
Hmm. I think that's okay too.
So Dr. Pepper walks into Brennan's place and says, "Have you had sex in this bed?" He goes, "Yes." And then she goes, "Why don't you have condoms?" That really cracked me the hell up.
But she's
And
asking
then
everybody the same question?
no, the first one was Dr. Pia. This
Okay.
was Dr. Pepper. And then she goes into his nightstand, and then he was like, "There's one over here." And then she goes, "That's not very ambitious." I was like, "Oh, Dr. Pepper." She talks to him, and Brennan does sound positive. He says he has traditional values. He says he wants someone who's supportive, who's warm, and someone that's between confident and not overly confident. I mean, they gave him all of that. So, like you said earlier, they all seem like they were in an interview. They all say the right things. We saw Dr. Pia with Michael. Michael says that he likes people with darker features, but he was very clear. I think he said brunette. So I wasn't there wondering, ooh, what does darker features mean? He says someone with a strong sense of self and confidence. And Michael does say that his deal breaker is a woman who is set on her own ecosystem because he has a curiosity for life. And if it's set, he doesn't know what to do with that. And I'm like, does owning a farm and fostering, is that a set ecosystem, Michael? Is
I
that
don't
what
think it
scared you
is.
off?
I
It's
don't
not.
think it
I'm
is.
I'm half kidding because I was like, um, but it makes you wonder even more who the first person was because everything he was describing, I think, was Chloe. So if Chloe was the second choice, what in the hell was the first person? Like, she must have been a hell of a person. I don't know.
What were her answers to these questions?
Yeah, yeah.
We're never gonna know.
All right, guys, we will be right back and we will talk about the experts reconvening.
So the experts get back together and they sit around the table um, with a whole bunch of pictures of people and they congratulate themselves on the great choices that they have to pick from and with the great job that they have done. But they're ready to get down to brass tacks and they will literally go through and just pick couples now. So they start with Cameron. They're like, he's a bike shop owner. I was like, this is why we have to watch the matchmaking special because I spent a lot of time wondering, oh, he works at the bike shop. Yeah, that's why we got to watch it. They spend a lot of time talking about how Claire is family oriented and they never even mention if that matches Cam. And I'm like, warning, warning. Their reason for matching, like they do a lot of talking and they describe a lot of traits, but all of them are so generic that they really don't make much of an impression on me. And so their reason for matching Claire and Cameron is that they will be a partnership and they will be equal, but they will respect each other's way of life. I have no idea what that means or why you think that. And they had another option for Cameron, but they went for Claire instead. They were like, I can't remember who the other person was, but they were like, oh, we're going to go with Claire.
It's the
Because
girl that I said should have been matched with Austin.
the chill yoga teacher.
Yeah, Jessica. But I did think what could have been.
Okay, so our next match is Lauren. We start with Lauren because that's who they wanted to match. And they talk about how she identifies with the Black experience, but she's open to all cultures, and that she's looking for emotional safety and a calming spirit. And they immediately jump to Orion. They say he's a business owner. They mention how they couldn't find any Black guys for Lauren. Um, um, they talk about the age difference between Lauren and Orion, and they say this is one of those things that I call I don't know if I call it Easter egg or like just something that makes me think of what actually ended up transpiring, I guess. So he says, "Is Orion ready to be challenged and called out on stuff?" Um, and I'm like, "We will find out that he is not. We will find out that he is not." A part of me was
Well,
like, do they film this matchmaking special, like parts of it, like after the show is over?
I mean, either way, the footage is there for them to use. But what are your thoughts on a 26-year-old? I'm answering my question as I'm asking you because Miles was 26, and I don't know if we had the same concerns.
We did.
Okay.
I think back then though, because that was the what, the fourth season in a row where they always seem to match a black woman with a younger black man.
100%. Yeah.
Um, so honestly, Lauren is part of the pattern that they seem to have. Don't know why. And yeah, I think there's a pretty big difference between being 26 and 30. Once again, it's one of those risks. I think it's probably worth the risk. I don't think there's that. I think there's a big difference between 26 and 30. I think it's something that can be overcome depending on who the 26-year-old is and who the 30-year-old is. Whatever happened with Miles and Karen, I don't think that that was a reason. I mean, not that we know, but I don't think that was a reason for what happened with them. They were together for a long time. It didn't work out, but I don't think the age was the factor. What do you think?
Lauren and Orion or Miles and
Just
Karen?
younger and older in general.
Oh, younger and older. Oh, I don't think age is a factor. I think it's there's a, oh god, there's levels to, it's a maturity level thing. Let me put it that way. Like if I look at Miles at 26, I don't look at him the same way I look at Orion at 26 because Orion at 26, Orion doesn't seem to have a sense of self. We didn't know if Orion's we didn't talk much about Orion's career in general. I know they left really early, but I think he was a little like up in the air. He was going to school. Like he just didn't seem like he was ready to be settled. If you're going to school, that takes a lot. And you're still so young. So I think it's not just the age. It's what kind of 20 whatever are you. But generally, you know me, I won't cast a 26-year-old even if you're Miles.
It's amazing to me because Orion and Lauren weren't on the show in the beginning for very long. When they show stuff about his early days, like the whole bachelor party and the girth thing, the weird conversation he had with Lauren's dad about the matriarchy that he grew up in,
Yeah.
he seemed thoroughly unprepared for this life experience.
Yeah, because he doesn't know himself. He'll give you one answer and then in 5 seconds give you a different answer. Yeah. Mm-mm.
So next we move on to our All-American Austin. Um, something that caught my eye when they were deciding who they should pick for him is they said Austin had a spiritual side. And I was like, is that code word for the religion that somehow his friend didn't know about? Did he express this to the experts at some point in this process?
But somehow he also didn't come up. His didn't come up when he sat down with the experts, and Becca's didn't either.
They say that Austin s- is docile. I was like, oh my God. And that he was high in emotional energy, which is what Becca needed, but he's a kid at heart. And so they're like, okay, Becca, sounds good for Austin. I can't even remember why they said they were a great match, but they
He
did.
could.
They're like,
They said she was high energy and she could draw him out or something like that.
"Ugh, does that, none of these reasons sound like a good reason for these two people to get married.
And they say that all the time. It's the same way they said the girl that they didn't give Cameron. They said she was too intense. And I'm like, and Claire is not?
I don't know how they didn't read Claire's intensity in casting or mention it. Because,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's there.
I feel like I see it.
Yeah. I do have a question, Aid. This whole thing, if it's only one expert visiting, only one person gets to have a sense of who they are, should all three experts be visiting or is that overwhelming? Like, do you think they watch clips of the visit? Like, how does that work?
I think in the first stage, they talk to all the experts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the
I don't know
whole
if it's
visit.
all. I don't think it's all actually. They talk to this is the same way some of them talk to some of them.
Oh, I don't think the. I think the home visit is more for entertainment than for actual knowledge.
Okay.
Um, I'm hoping that they're checking that this person just like doesn't live like a rodent, so they don't match like people like that.
Well,
Um,
Mitch got matched, so and he knew cameras were coming, so you know
Jane, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but did you just say that bitch lived like a rodent?
it was gross. I'm sorry, it was disgusting.
I guess my point is I would hope that they get most of what they need out of the interviews. Like I don't see a lot of utility in the house thing.
Okay,
Maybe I mean, it's just fun to kind of see how people live, but other than that, I'm like I don't really see the point of this. Um
maybe the thing is in the home thing, just making sure that they all get a chance to speak to the person and get a sense of who they are. I guess maybe that's what's more important.
and you know what? You're right in that you probably do get a sense of some who someone is better if you go to their house and talk to them in their space, not in the studio or not in like wherever they do this casting stuff.
And I want to see more, something they need to incorporate more in the matchmaking special. I want to see the experts fight more. Not fight like serious fight, but
But
be like,
disagree.
no, yeah, like, no, I really don't think so because XYZ. And then by the end of the season, if it comes up to be a problem, we're like, oh, you knew your shit. You knew what you were talking about. Or, you got this all wrong. I think there needs to be more of that. But they seem to all like, I think we got a match. I'm like, okay, no concerns, nothing.
I'm just not a believer. I think when they sit down for this conversation, it's not a real discussion. These things have already been decided.
Yeah,
It's a
I know.
recreation.
I think they were like, yeah, I'm the one. I think that when they go to the house and have that conversation, it's just for due diligence. They already made up their minds. I'm with you.
So next up is Emily. Dr. Pepper really likes Emily. She calls her a gem. She says that she's very ambitious and that she needs a strong guy. And Pia does. I mean, Dr. Pia does mention like, she's never been in love or a relationship, but the excuse that Dr. Pia gives is that it's because she's so ambitious. She's been focused on work, so she hasn't been focused on finding love. That's not anything like what Emily ever said throughout the season. So that I'm like, did Dr. Pia just make that up as a figment of her imagination?
I think it goes to the power of storytelling. You can craft whatever story you want to. On one hand, the story could be I work so much, I do so much, I haven't given so much time. On the other hand, you could craft a story like, oh, I just always get ghosted. And you're like, what's wrong with this girl? But if you craft that story like, oh, what's wrong with her? Why is she doing that? Then comes the conversation, why is she being cast? So it's easier to lean in with the I work so much and so hard that I don't have time for boys.
They say that that Brennan likes to be a leader and she's looking for a traditional relationship. And so they think Brennan is the one for her. They also talk about their active social lives as another reason why they're a good match, which is makes sense.
Yeah.
So the thing they do with Michael, of course, is hella confusing because they spend all this time. They talk about how he's successful and I can't remember what else they said. Successful. And then you're waiting for them to be like, so we're gonna match him with they just spend a lot of time talking about how Michael is great.
And
And then
then
there's no
they
match.
no, and then they was this the part where they Frankenstein the stuff and they said he's so great. We hear Pascal saying it, we don't see him say it, but he's like he's so great that we need to spend more time to find him a good match.
Thank you. Yes. They say something about how they're gonna go find him another match, which is like, no.
That they need to make sure they get him the right person, and I'm like, okay, I guess they have to do the best that they could. It's fine.
It's just really strange. I guess they were making game time decisions and when they had to go back and re-edit stuff out and re-edit stuff in because even when they meet in the park to like go their separate ways to go tell everybody they've been matched, they mentioned once again that they're like still looking for a match for Michael.
Yeah. But I think that probably what caused the storyline the season to start with Michael's wedding. Like, let's just get this out the way. This to happen, all that kind of stuff. Because you can't drag that. And then they released that even with the People magazine stuff and whatever. We have our first runaway. They didn't even try to keep that.
Okay. So next they go into telling everybody that they've been matched, which was a lot of fun.
It's
Um
always fun.
and the way they do it, I think requires, some creativity and people being surprised. So they start with Claire. Dr. Pepper scares the bejesus out of her when she's at F48. I've never tried that one. It looks very intense though. She is intensely working out. Um, and then Dr. Pepper just pops up behind her, scares the bejesus out of her. And this is where I really leaned into the job interview thing because they would ask them like one more question, like, we're still trying to figure out like who we're gonna pick, what do you think of marriage, or what do you think makes a successful marriage, or what are you gonna do to and then the person comes up with their answer that's ready for TV, and then they're like, oh, so you're getting married in 2 weeks. And so Claire is like so excited. She hugs Dr. Pepper, so happy. Then they do Cameron, and like this man has no reaction at all. And I think they must have told him, like, wow, you don't seem really that excited. They do it at the bike shop, but he's like, yeah, when it works out, then I'll be excited. And he's also like, I'm going to try really hard in this marriage, but like, I can't work up any excitement for you for possibilities, is what I heard, which I kind of understood.
Let me tell you, if I was Dr. Pepper and that he gave me that reaction and he's like, oh shit, I would disqualify him ASAP on the spot. On the spot. I was annoyed and I was even like, I'm going to do all that work. You're going to do all that work. Fill out all that paperwork, do all that. And I tell you that you're married with the cameras waiting for the right reaction shot. And this is what you give me. I'm taking you out. I'm disqualifying you.
You guys, there's this episode, like Oprah used to do this thing. She surprises people, right? One of my favorite episodes of Oprah is when she went and surprised this man. He was a park ranger. He had written Oprah a letter about encouraging more black people to come to our national parks. Very, very nice thing. But Oprah and Gail show up and he's like, oh, cool. And Oprah's like, yeah, not everybody just like freaks out, when that is the reaction that you think you're going to get. And that's what I was thinking of, like with Cameron.
Knowing what I know now about my cult leader, I would disqualify him on the spot.
So next up is Brennan. He is at the climbing gym. When he's told his news, he is super excited. He is like, I'm ready to go. Um, Emily is at Reformer Pilates, where we'll see her later in the season. And Pastor Cal totally does like the freak out surprise, the same thing they did to Claire with Dr. Pepper. Like she's sitting there doing her reformer, and then he just sits on the one next to her, and she turns around, and there he is. I thought it was funny how like there were other people in the class who just like mysteriously disappeared at the right moment. But Emily is so excited. She has tears in her eyes. She's ready. Um, Becca is doing a really cute photo shoot. A girl is holding a whole thing with flowers, and Dr. Pepper just sneaks up behind her. And Becca says, you guys always do this shit. And then Dr. Pepper is like, so who's taking the wedding pictures? And Becca's like, my friend who I know who's a wedding photographer. And Dr. Pepper's like, yeah, I'm asking this because it's really important because your wedding is in 2 weeks. And Becca is like dumbfounded. She's like, yes, yes. And then no. And then Dr. Pepper's like, you're getting married. And in 2 weeks. And she gets very happy and is like, this is great. Yes. They tell Lauren she is doing this job interview. So she's discussing who she is and what she likes and the books and the crystals. And then who told her? Dr. Pepper? So Dr. Pepper tells Lauren. Lauren also cries. I'm keeping a count. I think definitely Emily cried. I think Claire cried and Lauren cried. Um Pastor Cal comes to tell Michael he is boxing. He is serious boxing. Um like he's like I don't even want to give you a hug, Pastor Cal. I'm nasty. But he does a surprise thing, just like whips in, like comes in behind him. He turns around. There's Pastor Cal, and then he looks. He and Becca had very similar, like stunned face reactions, and he's like, "Yeah, you're getting married," and Michael is like, "I am." So that was fun. It's fun. It's a little fun thing we'll watch everybody get told.
You skipped Orion.
Oh, I have no recollection of what happened.
So Pascal walks in and Orion is drilling. And I'm like, sir, you know you don't have a license to drill here. What are you doing? And then he tells him that he's getting married. And then I guess he's excited that he's getting married.
I'm like, did I even watch this? Did Xfinity On Demand just know that I didn't really care for Orion and they just left him out? I have no recollection of Orion being told he's getting married.
Yeah, he was putting like something on the wall. But
Okay.
yeah,
Was he excited?
yeah, he was.
Okay.
He was excited.
So yeah, that's the matchmaking special. It's
Hmm.
I'm going to say what I said at the top of the hour. It's not great television.
But here we are.
And you know what? I will give them this. Like this whole people being told, that used to be part of the first episode of the season and they have cut that out.
Ah, I don't remember. I think the last matchmaking was the one we watched together for San Diego. Because
I
remember, Justin, the whole time I thought he didn't make it, so I was feeling okay. And then I found out he made it, and I freaked out. So, okay.
Did you watch the kickoff? Because then there was a preview for the kickoff special, and Beth is there from North Carolina crying, and I was like, "Oh, maybe I should have watched that too."
Yeah, somebody told us because I was given an update and I was like, "Oh, she's never spoken about what happened." And someone was like, "Yes, she did on the kickoff special." So the kickoffs are okay because they kind of make predictions. And it's always weird because I'm like, have they really not seen screeners? I don't know. But they make predictions on what's going to happen, what they think is going to happen. And I think that's where Beth talks about her marriage and its ending.
Okay, well, on my like cable, it says that there have been 53 episodes of Married at First Sight this season. That's a lot of television, you guys. A lot of television. That includes all the regular episodes, the kickoff specials, the matchmaking specials, the mid-season specials, after party. 54 episodes. If we miss one or two, that's life.
Lifetime got to keep the lights on somehow.
All right. Any final thoughts on the matchmaking special? Any what did you glean? What do you think we gleaned out of this experience?
Not a damn thing. I think it was just fun. The hindsightness of it all is just fun. And I think the funnest thing to me, besides Dr. Pepper saying that's not ambitious, was just seeing how they Frankenstein the whole Michael thing. That was just kind of funny to me, really. And then it was nice seeing the hope. It's the hope that kills, but it was nice.
Yeah, it was nice to see the hope, but then it was sad to see the hope because we knew how it ended.
Yeah.
It's rough out there. It's rough out there. You know, it was very interesting to see how we got to where we got, and I really appreciated that part of watching it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We are on Instagram and Twitter at AltarCallMAFS. That's ALTARCALLMAFS. Feel free to shout out at us on the socials.
We love to hear what you guys have to say, and you never hold back on the things you have to say. We just love hearing it. So please give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Stay subscribed so you don't miss out on any new episodes. And we will be back on the next episode. Bye, guys.
Bye.